Hey there everyone, it's Cindy Pope at the Cool Tools Studio. I'm here to show you how to make an extruded hoop earring using my new templates. So here are the tools we are going to use for the hoop earring project. I'm going to use distilled water and olive oil, applicator brush, an extruder, and I'm going to use these two dies in the extruder, a precision or a hole setting burr, ball burrs, little tiny brush, pointy tweezers, a scalpel, and a 5mm precision punch. I made some little balls ahead of time and some Aureus slip ahead of time. And this is the new Shield B template, and all of the hoops can be made with the B templates, rolling pin, and a silicone surface for rolling, and Aureus bronze. So let's get started on our hoop project. So these are all hoop earrings I've made. All of my templates, B templates are the easiest way to do it because there's a nice slot to create the hoop. So let's go ahead and add our clay to an extruder and I'll show you how this works. So I'm using two dies, and the reason I'm using two is I want this size, but I want only one, because you want them to be nice and supple when they come out. So if I did 4 at a time, they'd be cracky when I put them in the template. So I just want that one, and I'm doing that by putting one template over the other. When I extrude, I always oil the inside of the extruder. I have two extruders, one for silver and one for bronze. And you don't need a lot of clay for this. When you make them in silver, maybe under 5 grams for the hoop earrings that are joined together we're going to do. You don't need a lot of clay for this. So what I do is I screw it up and I put my finger at the end, and I put with the one whole side up on top. And you want to put fresh clay in it. If it isn't, spritz it and get it nice and supple. I'm going to hold my finger here and I'm going to put pressure. What that's doing is it's compacting the clay that I put in here. Okay? So once I've got that made, I'm going to extrude a little bit. And I'm going to put it in the chamber of the one I'm going to make. And you want to push it up against the outside edge. And once you've got it where you want, you need to slice it because we need two sides. And they need to be exactly the same length. Otherwise, it just won't work right. And if you're doing a whole bunch, you can put this on top of a wet paper towel or in a little dish with some water to keep it nice and moist. Gonna roll it to make it flat. I'm gonna oil the bottom a little bit. And then I'm tucking these up against the top all the way around the outside. And you could do this with any template, but the chamber makes it a lot easier to make this one because it's not going to be rolling all over the place. Okay, I'm going to use my snake roller, so I'm going to make sure everything is where it should be. And you can see some of these are flatter than others. So if you want it very rounded, what you're going to do is you're going to press it down and just give it a slight press. What that's doing is it's setting the shape. But if you want it a little flatter, and I'm going to be powder coating some of these, so I want a little bit more space for the color to show, and just try to make them the same on each side. And when you make the second earring, same thing. And now we're going to dry this, and then we're going to join it together. Okay, I've taken this off the heating surface, and I put it on top of a tile because you want to be careful. You do not want to warp your templates. So if these were not perfect, exactly perfect, this has got lots of bend in it, even when it's dry. So I make sure they're matching well and the curves all look right. And as soon as I do that, I'm going to go ahead and sand the edges. And for this one, I'm going to use the 400 flash signer. And it's kind of like when you're soldering. You have to have a really good flat surface, one against the other, to get a good join. And if you cut it perfectly, it'll be good, but I didn't cut it perfectly. So now I bent this a little bit when I took it to show you, so, okay. So they're joining up well, pretty well. So then I'm ready to join them. So I'm going to do slip, but this is not like really soft. This is like almost straight clay. And my applicator brush and a little bit of water. First thing I want to do is I want to rehydrate these surfaces, and they're really tiny surfaces, so go around the side too, because we're constructing dry, and when you construct dry, you have to rehydrate to join things. And always rehydrating both sides. Got a little. But this is, again, not brittle at all. And I've had pieces that didn't quite match up, and I was able to bend them so they were perfect. Okay. Now I'm going to take and these are really tiny, so you just have to put a bunch on there and push it together. And then you're going to sand it off after it's dry. It's kind of like when you're fixing a crack, overfill. And then hold for a little bit, just so it catches. And then go over the top. And again, don't get too perfect at this point. Your main goal, which one of my teachers, Monterey Tanner, told me, join it, let it dry. because I would always join it and then I would futz with it and it would fall apart. So she said, join it, let it dry, and then what we'll do is we'll flip it over, reinforce the other side, and then we're going to refine the whole thing and add a dot. Okay, we are going to work on the little bail for these earrings. Pretty easy bail. I'm a big fan of the precision punches, and oops, I'm rolling out 2-card clay, so very, very thin, but bronze is really, really strong. And I'm going to cut 3 circles, just if I screw up one. What I'm going to do is I'm going to dry them, add them to this, and at the very end, drill a hole through it. And this, even wet, this clay holds together pretty good, so it's not like I'm gonna, it's almost got like a rubbery feeling that holds it together. So I'm gonna dry these 3, and now we're gonna reinforce. I'm gonna put my reading glasses on and see how that joined. It joined pretty good, and in this case it actually went back to the back, but that doesn't mean you don't have to reinforce the back. And my rules for success are over reinforce. I'm going to wet it, but I'm not going to wet it so much that I'm going to mess up the other join. Because if you over wet it, it might come apart. But I'm just making that top part a little more receptive. We're going to dry this one up and then add the bail. So I've taken this off the surface, the heating surface, and we're going to go ahead and just clean it up. And then we'll put more clay in there if we feel we need to. Because I put it on there really, really thick and messy, so I got a good join. So I'm using a sanding sponge. So I've got a little bit too much clay right here. This clay, you can just slice it off. You're not going to break the piece. Some clays are really, really brittle, but these are really flexible yet strong when dry, which is it's a really interesting feel for the clay. And makes it easier for the user. So I'm going to put a ball at the end. And I'm going to put my bezel on. And the way I put the bezel on is I'm going to wet it, and then half of it is going to go on my hoop, and half of it's, a little over half is going to come up. And once it's joined and dried, I'm just going to drill a little hole through it. And I use the 5, you could probably use the 5 or the 6. And I'm also going to just do a little bit of smoothing with wet smoothing. You can use one of these applicator brushes or a baby wipe. I'm going to have to get this wet to put the balls on anyways, so I can smooth before I put those on. It's looking good. Okay, so I'm going to put this over here and wet it up. I don't need a ton of slip for this clay, but I'm just going to put a little bit on the tip. And the trick for me is going to be centering it. I have had to remove them a couple of times. So I'm going to put that clay on there. Let's see if I can get it centered. So I want enough sticking up so I can put a hole in it. And I think that's going to work good. And why don't I put one of the balls on now? I'm a little obsessed with the balls, but they are, in this particular project, they're actual structural components. Because anytime you add something, a component to a join, your join is less likely to break. And I just like the look of a little ball. So when you get on there, you want to move it back and forth so it's you're encouraging the join. And then I think I'm going to put one in the bottom also, a slightly bigger one. And you can make these with the finishing touches molds that Cool Tools has. I also make them with the precision punches. So I have 2, 2.5, 3, and I make these by the bundle because they are so fun to add to pieces. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to move it back and forth. And we are going to dry it. I'll drill a hole and then I'll reinforce one more time because you always want to reinforce twice. Okay, we took this off the drying surface and I'm going to reinforce these, but first I am going to drill the hole while it's still dry. So I'm going to take my tiniest stone setting burr, or close to the tiniest, and I'm going to make that first hole right in the center. And it's almost like a starter hole, and that's going to be just right. I'm going to go up a little bit at a time until I think it's not too big to, I don't want to crack the circle. And you don't need a super big hole for an ear wire. Okay. And I'm not going to use the stone setting burr on this one because it's hard to get to it. But I am going to do the reinforcing, and then as soon as it's dried and I sand it up a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and put it in the kiln, and we're going to do a burnout at 650 on top of carbon for 30 minutes, and then we are going to ramp it full to 1400 for 2 hours. And you want to make sure you definitely reinforce this back dot. Aureus joins really, really well when firing. My experience has been so, but you always want any part that's going to be hanging off like that, you want to reinforce. So there we go, and we're going to fire them, and they're going to look like this.